Chapter 871, How Loathsome. Lu Shu agreed with Zhang Weiyu. After we killed the scouts, they might have sped up their raids. Even if they did not intend on immediately attacking, they can no longer stay still. Yu Dai looked at Lu Shu and Zhang Weiyu in shock. Even the slaves behind Yu Dai were shocked. Were they bragging? The scouts from the Black Feather Army were the most elite soldiers. Rank 4 experts were in the lead, while Rank 5 soldiers made up the rest of the troops. And they killed this kind of team? One of them was a pretty boy, and the other was an ordinary farmer. How could they have killed the scout troops from the Black Feather Army? Zhang Weiyu coughed. It's like this, from the start to the end, I did not do anything. If the Black Feather Army asks me, I will say that I'm innocent. I'm just a normal farmer. Lu Shu's expression darkened. Was he shifting the blame now? He laughed coldly. Do you really think that they will accept that explanation? The two guards who ran away will remember your appearance. Did you forget what you said to them? Let me remind you. You said, now, it's my turn. Don't even think about your land. If the Black Feather Army occupies this place, they will look for you everywhere. From Zhang Weiyu's distress, plus 666. Yu Dai quietly looked at Lu Shu. She believed that whatever they had said was true. Thus, had Lu Shu single-handedly killed 3 elite scouts from the Black Feather Army? This was bizarre. She had thought that Lu Shu was an ordinary person. He seemed thin and weak. Lu Shu also knew that this world particularly liked burly men. They seemed very strong. But he was different. He had used his celestial powers from the beginning. His strength did not depend on whether he was thin or burly. Furthermore, the practice of swordplay caused one's muscles to grow in good proportion. The Hall of Swords stressed on elegance and freedom. Those who practiced swordplay were like artists. They emphasized on beauty. The two of you. Follow the Yu family to defend against the enemies. We will not be easily bullied and humiliated by the Black Feather Army, the two of you. Before Yu Dai could finish speaking, she saw Lu Shu and Zhang Weiyu run north as they talked. In a flash, they were nowhere to be seen. From Yu Dai's distress, plus 199. To be honest, Lu Shu did not intend to participate in this war. According to Zhang Weiyu, there would be around 1,200 people in the vanguard. The vanguard would be perfectly organized and made up of soldiers with high mobility. They would be able to fight and run. On the other hand, there were less than 2,000 people in the fields and the town, including the slaves of the old aristocrat. It looked as if the fields and the town had more manpower. Furthermore, the old aristocrat was a rank 3 expert. But the problem was, the manpower in the fields was like a crude militia, compared to the army. They had not undergone standardized training and did not know how to work together. Lu Shu had seen the slaves in town, especially those who belonged to the Yu family. They seemed very fierce, but to true experts, they only looked fierce. He had also fought with the Black Feather Army. Their cooperation made Lu Shu feel oppressed, even if he had sword energy in hand. To Lu Shu, this gap was like the difference between the flood of bronze and the secret practitioners. Thus, Lu Shu did not think that the fields and town would win. The Black Feather Army was prepared for this war. They had not made their move. Instead, they went to collect information. Lu Shu did not believe that these elites from the Black Feather Army would not understand what was happening in the fields. They had come, but they did not expect to lose. Yu Dai watched as Lu Shu and Zhang Weiyu walked further and further away. On the other hand, the sound of the Black Feather Army approaching drew closer and closer. The lights in the town were relit. Many slaves escaped in a flurry, including slaves from the Yu family who were in charge of shops. The entire town was noisy. Everyone knew that Duanmu Huangqi's army had come and wanted to run away. At that moment, Yu Dai snorted coldly. All the slaves that had the seal of a sword on the back of their palms shouted in pain. It was as if the seal was burning. Yu Dai said coldly, "Those who want to run away, think about the consequences." Slave owners could not kill their slaves through the seal, but they could make them feel pain. This was controlled by their techniques. If the slaves betrayed their owners, they would experience extreme pain. There were very few slaves who could resist this pain. After they had borne the pain, the seal would disappear. The pain escalated on different levels. Ever since written language was created, only a few people were able to bear the pain. Yu Dai drew back. This had been decided by the town guard and the slave owners. If the Black Feather Army infiltrated their town, they would use street-to-street fighting to reduce their mobility. They would then surround and kill them in the town. There were about 2,000 slaves who could fight. Their average strength was around rank 5 to rank 6. Only the slave owners and their trusted aides were rank 4. Yu Dai herself was a rank 4. The slaves that belonged to the town guard were relatively stronger. There were more than 10 rank 4s. Lu Shu had realized that the greatest advantage of this world was that although the population was stronger, their overall strength was higher too. The 4 lords of heavens were Shinsong Jing experts. It was said that some of the slaves that belonged to them and the king of gods had also achieved Shinsong Jing. On the other hand, there were only a few Class A's on Earth, and one Shinsong Jing, Nia Ting. The king of gods was stronger than a Shinsong Jing. A small town had over 2,000 slaves that underwent training. Needless to say, big cities would have even more of such people. But Yu Dai was very clear that the town guard did not rally all their manpower to defend against the Black Feather Army. They had sent out a signal for assistance. They only needed to defend themselves against the vanguard of the Black Feather Army. They did not have to fight to their deaths. Duanmu Huangqi had an army, but so did Wen Zaifu. At that moment, it was as if the sound of horses galloping had stopped a few kilometers away from the town. Yu Dai was puzzled. Did the Black Feather Army change their plans? Did they no longer plan on invading the town? The next second, there was a crash. It was as if the world was collapsing. The ground shook and everyone in town was shocked. They did not know what had happened. To be honest, the Black Feather Army did not know what had happened either. Just 2 minutes ago, they had been advancing towards the town at full speed. Suddenly, a young girl appeared in their way and asked them whether they knew where Lu Shu was. The commander jeered at her. "Young lady, I don't know who Lu Shu is, but he's probably dead. We don't ask for names when we kill people." Then, the ground where the vanguard was standing on started to sink. Suddenly, a silver light enveloped everyone. It was as if everyone was being tied up. This was the first time Lu Xiaoyu was fighting in this world. She felt that she had to show her power during her first fight. She allowed the bishop to control the field, then perfectly used the sand shower Tripitaka. No one was able to escape. Lu Xiaoyu was slightly puzzled. Did the people in this world not know their limits when speaking? How loathsome. Chapter 872, Palace. Nobody on Earth, including Cloudy and Tigerji, knew that Lu Shu's powers had been shackled. The reason was because they had reached him too late and Lu Shu had already entered the Celestial Gate when they arrived. Chaos knew it, but he did not want to tell anyone else. The first thing Lu Xiaoyu did after she went through the Celestial Gate was to activate the clone of Lu Shu made by Johnson. However, it was strange because despite the fact that she had passed through the galaxy into this world, Lu Shu's celestial map was not responding. The Black Feather Army had reached the town with full confidence but was buried underground. Although the spirit of the Black Feather Army was not powerful in terms of attack, it was extremely good at control. This tactic had once been used on Lu Shu by Francesco when he was dealing with the Department of Faith Theory, almost paralyzing Lu Shu. In that town on Sardinia, the Department of Faith Theory needed hundreds of people to play the old trick, but Coral's grave injuries caused lightning to strike. Now that the bishop had become the spirit puppet for Lu Xiaoyu, the same tactic used by the Class A bishop to fight against the army with ranks lower than or equal to rank 3 was definitely more powerful. He did not even need to put a restraint on them completely and could just make it such that they were unable to break free from the quicksand. Lu Xiaoyu looked around and was confused by the directions. What she needed to do was to deduce which direction Lu Shu would head to after he arrived. After a few minutes, she felt that a wild guess would be too inaccurate. Although she knew Lu Shu, she did not know the world she was in. After some consideration, Lu Xiaoyu decided to go underground with Anthony and brought the person who teased her earlier on up to the ground. Upon reaching the surface of the ground, the soldier of the Black Feather Army spat out 2 mouthfuls of soil and breathed heavily for air. Lu Xiaoyu's sand shower Tripitaka was used to bury people alive before using the power of the Earth-type metahuman to seal the top layer tight such that the people underneath would not die within a short span of time. The commander of the Black Feather Army heaved a sigh of relief. However, before too long, he heard the girl ask coldly, "Do you know where Lu Shu went?" The commander of the Black Feather Army had no time to care about the sand on his body and replied immediately, "The Black Feather Army have just reached this town and have yet to kill anyone. I really did not hear about or see the person you have just mentioned." The Black Feather Army was known for being the most powerful and disciplined army of Duanmu Huangqi. They were not afraid of death in battle. However, a person who had died once could not be firm in his stance when facing a powerful individual of possibly rank 1. Moreover, it was all right to betray the Lord of Heaven now as the lady was simply asking a question. At this moment, the commander of the Black Feather Army wanted to slap himself. She was merely asking for directions, why did he have to be so secretive? This was a world that was based on power. If Lu Xiaoyu was an ordinary girl, the vanguard of the Black Feather Army would probably kill the ordinary girl in case she leaked their secrets. Lu Xiaoyu sealed his lips and took out a photograph of Lu Shu from her space ring. "Have you seen him before?" The commander of the Black Feather Army gasped when he saw the picture. "Did you draw this? Your drawing is so amazing. The person in this photo is also extremely handsome. A lot of girls in the palace must have a crush on him, right?" "What is the palace?" Lu Xiaoyu frowned. "Also, can you introduce your city?" "The palace is the capital of the King of Gods. The other capitals of the other lords of heaven cannot be called the palace. They can only be called names like East Capital, West Capital, and so on." The commander of the Black Feather Army carefully looked at Lu Xiaoyu. He wanted to see if Lu Xiaoyu had came from the palace and brought a team of soldiers to protect her life. He thought that Lu Xiaoyu could have came from the palace, as there was the only place where a powerful individual of rank 1 of such a young age could be found. Only the real big families could nurture such terrifying disciples. If Lu Xiaoyu really came from the palace, he could have tried to establish ties with her. For instance, "I know this person and since you know him too, please spare my life." Yet now, the girl in front of him did not even seem to know what was a palace. Lu Xiaoyu asked, "Where's the nearest capital?" "The nearest capital is the West Capital led by the West Lord of Heaven Duanmu Huangqi. It takes around 2 months to get there. However, the road there is complicated. Let me lead the way since I am familiar with that place," said the commander excitedly. However, after he finished his sentence, the commander was dragged underground by Anthony again and Lu Xiaoyu did not even give him a chance to resist. Lu Xiaoyu frowned as she looked towards the west. She thought Lu Shu would definitely make his way to the most prosperous place. Perhaps, it was easy to look for the path back home at the most crowded place. The Black Feather Army came from the west. She probably would encounter more Black Feather Army on the way to the west, but she did not care. At this moment, Lu Shu was fleeing towards the north with Zhang Weiyu. Zhang Weiyu said he found a good hiding spot in the forest in the north. There was a cave blocked by a waterfall and even the Black Feather Army would not think there exists a cave behind the waterfall. In over 10 years, the town had experienced a small-scale battle every 3 years. Although it may not be the main battleground, it was dangerous for ordinary individuals. Zhang Weiyu had hidden in the cave for all of these battles. He took a look at Lu Shu and said, I am bringing you there because I trust you. There will be others hiding in this cave when the battle starts. Please do not reveal this location and please pretend that you have never met them before. However, instead of a response, Lu Shu looked confused. He ran towards the town. Zhang Weiyu was stunned. Hold on, don't tell me you want to return to the battleground? Hey! Zhang Weiyu felt speechless as he saw Lu Shu running towards the town. He had stopped several times while making his way to the north. Finally, Zhang Weiyu gritted his teeth and said, Fine, I shall return the favor. After that, Zhang Weiyu ran towards the town. Lu Shu saw the distress points on Lu Xiaoyu's page hitting 1,000. This implied that firstly, Lu Xiaoyu had reached this world or else he would not receive the distress points. Secondly, Lu Xiaoyu must be killing in a massive scale or the distress points would not hit 1,000. If the celestial gate had a fixed position, then Lu Xiaoyu must be at Zhang Weiyu's farmland. Moreover, Lu Xiaoyu would not kill any ordinary villager, so she must have met the Black Feather Army. As Lu Shu ran crazily towards the west, he saw an extremely leveled piece of land. It was so leveled that it was strange. Lu Shu knew that Lu Xiaoyu had done that. However, where did Lu Xiaoyu go? At this moment, Zhang Weiyu came and scolded him, Are you mad? Instead of replying to him, Lu Shu looked around. Zhang Weiyu pulled Lu Shu and wanted to leave. The Great War is starting, don't risk your life. Zhang Weiyu was confused. Where did the Black Feather Army go? Did they enter the town already? However, he had no time to think about it. He only wanted to pull Lu Shu away, but Lu Shu ignored him and instead, ran towards the west with Zhang Weiyu. Zhang Weiyu was about to break down. That place is the camp of the Black Feather Army. Lu Shu did not care and shouted loudly, Xiaoyu. Xiaoyu. Where are you? After that, he heard a clear voice. I am here, I am here, I am coming to protect you. It sounded extremely happy. Chapter 873, Slave Lu Xiaoyu. After hearing Lu Shu call Lu Xiaoyu's name, Zhang Weiyu was confused and looked at Lu Shu. Since when did you two progress so quickly such that you are calling her by her name Xiaoyu? At this moment, a cold voice was heard. Who is Xiaoyu? Lu Shu, how long have you been here? From Lu Xiaoyu's distress, plus 666. Lu Shu laughed when he saw Lu Xiaoyu. Why are you here? Lu Xiaoyu grinned from ear to ear. I am here to protect you. What's up with you? Lu Xiaoyu realized that Lu Shu's condition was weird. Both she and the puppet master did not know that Lu Shu had chosen to be shackled by his dream. She said that she was protecting Lu Shu as she was considered a powerful individual. As for Lu Xiaoyu, who was Class B, he definitely needed to be protected. However, she did not expect that Lu Shu lost his Class B. Lu Shu threw a glance at Lu Xiaoyu. Although he had been through difficulties with Zhang Weiyu and Zhang Weiyu was a person with decent character, he was too sneaky and almost used Lu Shu earlier on. Therefore, he decided to not let Zhang Weiyu know about what happened between himself and Lu Xiaoyu. It was nothing wrong to be slightly cautious of outsiders. Meanwhile, Lu Xiaoyu and Lu Shu had telepathy. After a glance from Lu Shu, she stopped talking. Zhang Weiyu was confused. He was wondering who the girl was and where did she come from. Wait a minute, Zhang Weiyu suddenly asked. Girl, did you happen to see an army? Nope, Lu Xiaoyu shook her head. Zhang Weiyu was stunned. Where did the Black Feather Army disappear to? Wasn't the galloping sounds of the horses from the Black Feather Army? That did not make sense. He looked at Lu Shu. Who is this girl? I thought you were an only child. Lu Shu was speechless. He said that too early as he did not expect Lu Xiaoyu to come. Zhang Weiyu was also guessing the identity of Lu Xiaoyu. She looked very young and was very pretty. As for her powers, he could not tell. Lu Shu said, "You know that I escaped from the slave owners, at that time." "I was his slave owner," said Lu Xiaoyu calmly. Lu Shu was dumbfounded. At this moment, Lu Xiaoyu looked at Lu Shu and smiled secretly. "Look, isn't my reaction fast?" From Lu Shu's distress, plus 666. He wanted to make up a story to say that Lu Xiaoyu was an ordinary villager and helped him when he was escaping. However, Lu Xiaoyu killed the story like that. Zhang Weiyu was surprised. "Really? Then why is his mark on?" Zhang Weiyu was definitely suspicious. After all, any slave with the mark on his buttocks would have a male slave owner. However, it was not impossible. After all, both the superior family and the slave owners had twisted personalities in Zhang Weiyu's opinion. However, Zhang Weiyu sighed. He would be really sad if what Lu Xiaoyu said was the truth. One could have such a pretty slave owner as a slave and have a female slave owner to help him after he escaped. Was this world all about looks? Anyone with good looks would have a good life? Initially, Zhang Weiyu was sympathetic of Lu Shu. However, he did not seem to need his sympathy at all. "Return to the town first," said Zhang Weiyu. "The town guard must have already sent an SOS. Now that the Black Feather Army has disappeared, the town must have been ready by the time they return, so the town should be safe. I am going to leave after buying some things. Do the both of you want to leave with me?" There was still cloth of good quality from the gifts from Yudai. Lu Shu made Zhang Weiyu sell them for some money and divided it 90 to 10 with Zhang Weiyu. Although Zhang Weiyu only got 10% of the money, he still could use it to exchange for a good amount of food. When Lu Shu was on Earth, he had thought about whether magical stones could become the new currency of the cultivation realm. However, each magical stone had a different amount of power despite having the same size, and it was difficult for ordinary people to differentiate. Therefore, it lacked the basic condition to become a currency. Moreover, each magical stone was worth several 100,000, it was too pricey. Initially, magical stones were used as a currency and it was extremely chaotic. After that, the King of Gods standardized the currency after consideration. The notes were distributed by the palace and regulated by the palace's bank. Every note had a special print of the bank. This method was more foolproof than that on Earth, and nobody could produce fake notes as a result. Some people tried to make fake prints, but after people discovered that there were experts who could go after these prints, people did not dare to take the risk anymore. There were fake notes, but it was almost impossible to use them as people were also equipped with the basic skills to identify them. Initially, people did not accept the notes as everyone thought that the King of God was too simple-minded. In the past, people held onto solid heavy magical stones. Now, he wanted to change it to a piece of paper and make it his own assets. How was that possible? The ordinary practitioners did not trust the newly established palace either, and nobody knew how long the King of Gods could last. After the palace was built, the world was in chaos and everyone was used to the constant changes in power. However, the palace was not destroyed for 3,000 years and nobody overthrew the King of Gods. The Lu dynasty was in power for as long as the palace was built. The King of Gods back then did not force everyone to use the notes. The 4 lords of heaven and the few nobles started to expand their territories and requested for notes to be the only allowed currency for businesses with the Lord of Heaven and the nobles. As these nobles had large-scale businesses, after they began to use the notes, everyone who dealt with them was forced to use the notes too. Then, everyone discovered that the notes were extremely easy to use. Back then, Lu Shu asked Zhang Weiyu why the 4 lords of heaven were so obedient. Zhang Weiyu said, they would die if they did not obey. Who dared to not obey? Now, Zhang Weiyu wanted to leave after buying his food. Lu Shu guessed that his friends were already hidden in the cave. Therefore, the food that Zhang Weiyu was about to buy was extremely important. If Lu Shu had not given Zhang Weiyu some money, the group of people would probably starve until the battle ended. Chapter 874, False Military Information. Lu Shu gave it some thought. With Xiaoyu, although they were still unable to defeat thousands of practitioners, if they were able to deal with ordinary situations, the town was a piece of cake for them. He said, head over to the town to check out the situation. On their way back to the town, Zhang Weiyu saw how Lu Shu and Lu Xiaoyu were having small talks, and their relationship was definitely not that of a slave and a slave owner. However, Zhang Weiyu thought that it was none of his business. Lu Shu had secrets, but he had many secrets too. Since both of them had gone through thick and thin together, he did not want to probe too much. Lu Shu started to instruct Lu Xiaoyu on the way, let's quietly find our way back home. Although you managed to control the spirit of Class A, there is the Shinsong Jing here and some realms that are even higher than the Shinsong Jing. Nie Ting was able to sever the divine punishment when he was a Class A, until now, I haven't seen him attack with the Shinsong Jing, God knows how powerful it would be. Therefore, we should be careful and secretly find the way back home. After that, we will have nothing to do with whatever happens in this world. Actually, Lu Shu was very cautious of the powerful individuals of this world. The Class A Nie Ting, Li Xianyi and Chen Beili were terrifying enough. He had once used the Seal of Lands to control the magical energy in the courtyard of the Luhai Lane. In the end, Nie Ting only managed to figure out a small part of the logic. He merely stepped into the door of Shinsong Jing and had reached such a high level of realm before he had even lived through the divine punishment. The barriers of the Seal of Lands and the courtyard broke when he tapped the table lightly. Then how would the Shinsong Jing be like? Lu Shu could not imagine it. He would have been mentally prepared if he had seen the attack made by someone of the Shinsong Jing level. However, he had yet to see it, and unknown things were the most terrifying. If Shinsong Jing was the realm where one used their own rules, then would there be a limit to the rules? Lu Shu felt that he should not be worrying about this as it was too complicated. At this moment, Zhang Weiyu was glancing at Lu Xiaoyu and Lu Shu. Do both of you want to hide in the cave with me? Lu Shu knew what Zhang Weiyu was thinking. Zhang Weiyu and the other people were ordinary villagers and suffered because they did not go through any cultivation. If Lu Shu followed him to the cave, he would definitely buy more food. Zhang Weiyu, who did not live off others' free food, felt that it was a good idea to do so. Moreover, if Lu Shu and Lu Xiaoyu went, Zhang Weiyu and the rest would have a bodyguard. No matter how weak Lu Shu and Lu Xiaoyu were, it was better than nothing. Zhang Weiyu did not know Lu Shu very well, but he knew that Lu Shu would not leave his friend behind during times of trouble. They were definitely considered friends, right? When they arrived in town, Lu Shu and Zhang Weiyu realized that the town was not as chaotic as they thought it would be. Even though every stall shut their doors tight, they could see people staring out of the gaps of the door nervously. The slaves who had marks on their bodies did not dare to flee. If the Black Feather Army came, they could only wait to die. The slave owners also knew how to prioritize things. Fighting was the most crucial now, and they could not allow the slaves to flee and ruin their plans. Lu Shu and Lu Xiaoyu's footsteps were very loud as they walked in the quiet town. Zhang Weiyu knocked on the wooden door of the rice shop. When the door opened, Lu Xiaoyu saw the cashier trembling at a corner. Two slaves of rank 5 opened the door with knives in their hands. Lu Xiaoyu took a glance at Lu Shu. Kill them? Lu Shu shook his head and heard the slave exclaim in surprise, why are the two of you here? Where is the Black Feather Army? Zhang Weiyu said, the Black Feather Army disappeared. Then what are you guys doing? The slave was confused. We are here to buy some food, replied Zhang Weiyu. The two slaves stepped out of the shop and did not see the Black Feather Army at all. Initially, they felt that something was amiss when they heard a loud boom. However, after the loud boom, the galloping sounds of horses disappeared. Everything was very strange. This was not possibly the scheme of the Black Feather Army as, after all, the best result could be obtained if the vanguard attacked during the chaos. Who would wait for their opponents to be ready before they attacked? One of the slaves ran into town and many people headed out nervously to take a look. If they hesitated slightly, the mark on their necks would hurt as their slave owners were rushing them to head out to take a look. After a while, a few of the slaves came back shouting, "We really did not see the Black Feather Army." After that, Lu Shu shockingly saw many slaves exit from the different alleys and shops. God knew where these people were hiding in earlier on. All of the cashiers of the shops walked out, and the ladies in the brothels gossiped at the door of the brothel. Lu Xiaoyu took a glance at Zhang Weiyu and pointed at the place where the ladies walked out from and asked, "What place is that?" "It is a brothel." Zhang Weiyu was stunned before continuing, "You mean there are no brothels at your place?" "We are not so wild," Lu Shu could only explain in such a manner. However, before he could finish his sentence, he saw Lu Xiaoyu walking towards the ladies and pointed at Lu Shu. Did he come here before? Lu Shu was dumbfounded. From Lu Shu's distress, plus 666. What on earth, is this the time to be asking about such questions? Am I a person like that? The ladies took a glance at Lu Shu and said, "We haven't seen this handsome guy before, but if he comes, we will treat him nicely." At this moment, the sounds of horses galloping were heard from the east of the town. However, Lu Shu realized that nobody panicked but looked happy. Zhang Weiyu said softly, "The reinforcements from the Nanging city are here. I'm not sure who is leading the soldiers, but the leader of the Nanging city is an aristocrat of rank 2. After he finished his sentence, a troop of horsemen wearing red armor charged into the town and instantly took over all the junctions in town. The red tassels on the helmet of the horsemen were like red flags. Even the horses were wearing red masks. Along with the sound of a horse, a brave and handsome teenager rode on the horse and went to the town guard. The town guard bowed before him and seemed to be nervous. The teenager looked down on the town guard and asked, "Where is the Black Feather Army?" "I don't kn. Do you know the consequences of giving false military information?" The town guard trembled. "We heard the sound of horses coming from outside of the town, but we don't know where the Black Feather Army went." He felt extremely wronged. They definitely heard the sound of horses, but where did the Black Feather Army go? Chapter 875, Imperial Dragon Soldiers. As the town villagers were busily discussing where the Black Feather Army went, Lu Shu and Lu Xiaoyu were watching the bustle. To be honest, both of them had witnessed huge events and they felt like they were being a bystander in this town. Of course, if not for Xiaoyu, Lu Shu would not be so carefree. Now that Zhang Weiyu said the leader of Nanging City was only rank 2, then Lu Xiaoyu could do anything she wanted in Nanging City. To Lu Shu, this world was similar to Earth in terms of size. However, there were many countries on Earth, but this world only had one. The Nanging City with people of rank 2 should be a small city, right? In that case, Lu Shu was curious about how big the city in the center of the world was. Lu Shu said softly, "If we have a chance, we can tour around the city as though we are traveling." He meant that they could stroll around after they found the way back home or after Lu Shu had recovered to his optimal state. After all, they killed tens of thousands of people in the battle earlier on. The people who died and suffered from fear all gave Lu Shu distress points. Therefore, Lu Shu felt that his distress points was sufficient to light up the entire celestial map. Class A and rank 1. Lu Shu had been dreaming about this realm for God knew how long before he was stuck because of the dream chooser. However, it was a good thing as Xiaoyu was protecting him and he could complete his recovery without any worries. At this moment, Lu Shu received a lot of distress points. He had heard of many of the names from Zhang Weiyu before as they were people of this town. The distress points due to the confusion regarding where the Black Feather Army was, went to Lu Xiaoyu and Lu Shu. At this moment, Lu Shu also realized that Lu Xiaoyu's distress points were accumulating. However, he could not eat the fruits or give Lu Xiaoyu the fruits now. Gradually, the topic about where the Black Feather Army went became whether the Black Feather Army had come in the first place. The teenager stared coldly at the town guard. I will report this matter to the Lord of Heaven, and I am sure he will make a wise decision. The nobles and the slave owners were different. The people from Nanging City could not decide on the noble's fate, but the slave owner could kill them if they wanted. Therefore, many slave owners wanted to obtain the status of a noble, as it was equivalent to having a few layers of armor as protection. At this moment, Zhang Weiyu said, "This person could be the leader of Nanging City, Lu Yizhao. Although I did not see him before, only he could make the Qingxai army so obedient." Lu Shu and Lu Xiaoyu looked at the horsemen with red armor. Every single one of them was motionless on their horses. As what Lu Shu expected, the difference in power of the troops and the people in town were extremely huge. He was the imperial dragon soldier of the King of Gods before all of them lost their positions after the new king took over. He was one of the luckiest amongst the 30,000 imperial dragon soldiers, said Zhang Weiyu calmly. Lu Shu turned and looked at Zhang Weiyu in shock. He felt that Zhang Weiyu spoke too calmly, that it was strange. However, he was more concerned about something else. There are 30,000 rank 2 experts amongst the imperial dragon soldiers? Zhang Weiyu took a glance at Lu Shu. Rank 2? 300 of the imperial dragon soldiers are rank 1. This is not a secret, everyone here knows about it as those storytellers love to talk about it. Lu Shu gave an "oh." Zhang Weiyu probably meant that he had heard about this from the storytellers, but Lu Shu did not believe it. After hearing what Zhang Weiyu said, he was deep in thought. How powerful would 30,000 rank 2 and class B experts be if they fought together? And the 300 rank 1 experts? It was too terrifying. However, with regards to this number, Lu Shu felt that there were over 1,000 rank 1 individuals in this world. Why were there only a few in the Shinsong Jing? Shinsong Jing was called the Great Master in this world. According to Zhang Weiyu, there was Shinsong Jing beside the King of Gods. Some of the Lords of Heaven also had slaves who were of the Shinsong Jing. However, there were different ranks of the Shinsong Jing. Despite that, there were less than 10 people who could be called Shinsong Jing. No wonder Chen Bailey and the rest who were above Class A were so concerned about their aptitudes. It was so difficult to rise to Shinsong Jing. At this moment, Lu Shu felt proud as Nye Ting, whom he had spent so much effort to capture, was the crème de la crème. However, he wondered what would happen if he advanced to Shinsong Jing. He felt that it was enough as long as he kept gathering distress points and there should not be any huge obstacles. However, the best thing was that Lu Xiaoyu did not even need to care about her emotions. The bigger the world was, the more terrified Lu Shu felt. What exactly was the power of the celestial map? The nobles and huge slave owners wanted powers of higher levels but did not realize that the celestial map had connected all the barriers on Earth since the start. Someone suddenly said, "2 villagers told me that the Black Feather Army was coming and both of them killed 3 of the horsemen." Oh. Lu Yizhao, the commander of the Qingxai army, turned to look at the people talking. Where are the 2 villagers? The town guard heaved a sigh of relief as the stress was lifted off himself. However, the slave who spoke collapsed on the ground after a scream. Yu Dai was punishing him with his mark. Lu Yizhao took a glance at Yu Dai but did not probe further. It was the slave owner's business to deal with their slaves, as the slaves were the assets of the slave owners. The old King of Gods had said that nobody could invade one's personal asset. At this moment, everyone turned to look at Lu Shu and Zhang Weiyu. The slaves in front of them gave way to Lu Yizhao. Lu Shu frowned. He felt that Lu Yizhao was looking at Lu Xiaoyu. The sound of the horse was heard again as Lu Yizhao walked towards Lu Shu with his horse. Lu Shu stood in front of Lu Xiaoyu instinctively like he always did. However, he did not succeed this time as Lu Xiaoyu had stood in front of Lu Shu. Lu Shu tapped on Lu Xiaoyu's shoulder. Lu Xiaoyu understood it, she could attack whenever she wanted to. Lu Yizhao's huge shadow shrouded over like a dark cloud. Lu Shu and Lu Yizhao exchanged glances coldly. If Lu Yizhao did anything funny to Xiao Yu, he would kill the entire Qingxai army. What was meant by hiding or being humble? Some things could not be tolerated. Before Lu Shu could make up his mind, Lu Yizhao suddenly said, "How handsome you are, brother. Do you want to tour Nanging City with me?" Lu Shu was dumbfounded. What a *king turn of events. Lu Xiaoyu immediately went to the wooden door of the rice store and laughed hysterically. Lu Shu was staring at her and telling her to kill Lu Yizhao. However, Lu Xiaoyu ignored him completely.
What does it mean to be happy? 'Cause it looks like we all don't know. Glass half full or empty. Man, we just putting on a show. Try to look to the heavens.